Hey there. All right. Today we're going to make a garlic and olive oil pasta. I'll show you what that looks like. Super simple. It should probably take less than a half hour. I'm going to show you the ingredients, less of me, and we'll knock through this really quickly. Thanks for joining. Okay, here we go. So what we have here is everything that honestly you're going to need to make this dish. Number one, it's an olive oil based sauce. So I have this one from Stonehouse, California. You can get this online. You can get this at the Ferry Building. We order it online all the time. It's kind of like what they would say more like a finishing olive oil where it's a little fancier. Not to brag. But you can use any store-based olive oil, extra virgin olive oil if you want, whatever you'd like. This is a house blend, so just a traditional blend. But we're going to use it sparingly, so it wouldn't be like from a financial standpoint a waste to use too much. It would be a waste to use too much, but it's going to be light. Broccoli. These are just the heads or of the florets. You can get these bagged as well. You can also buy a big thing of broccoli and just cut down the florets. What you don't want, and I've already taken most of it off, but the big stem pieces, you want to eliminate those as much as possible. Number one, they're bitter. It'll ruin the taste and flavor of your dish. And it takes longer to cook. These should take just a few minutes and you still want them a little bit firm. But if you have those big stem pieces, it's gnarly to kind of chew through those. Garlic, I usually use 3 cloves. The garlic that I bought for this, I already put the paper off, is the biggest garlic I have personally ever seen before. So I'm just going to use 2. I may even use this half of one of these because it's so gigantic. And then from an optional standpoint, this is red pepper flake. I have it in the jar here too. It does add something, I think, that kicks this dish up a notch. And I think you'll really enjoy that. So I also have kosher salt, but the pasta, and I'll explain that here in a second. And then the pasta that we're using is penne rigate. It's the one that has like the ridges on it versus I think, I forget what the other penne is called. This is, to me, I like the one with the ridges. Number one, it kind of takes the sauce and or the olive oil in this case, it holds well to the pasta. And it's also, we're gonna add Parmesan, which I don't have pictured. We'll add Parmesan at the end to finish. And I think we know with the ridges, it holds better to the pasta. From a cooking standpoint, salt and pepper shakers. Just one skillet, we're gonna use this to cook our broccoli. I'm gonna turn that on right now to about a 5. Let that get going. On the back burner, I don't have a big pot for the pasta, and you can see I just have a little bit of water. That's gonna get going right now, and that's kind of where our salt's gonna come in. So I'm gonna go ahead. You wanna salt your water. I'll use the other side. This is just kosher salt. You wanna salt your pasta water. It'll flavor your pasta nicely. You don't need to put too much, especially since it's not a big dish that we're cooking. Let's turn it on just a little bit. And I'm gonna let that get to a boil. And then, I think this is a tip on a trivia thing. If you put the spoon over it, it should hopefully help it from boiling over. Depends on how much water you got in there as well. And then, let's see here. So I'm gonna get that going. And then, this is starting to heat up now. I'm gonna trim up and slice up this garlic. We'll get that going. We'll get the olive oil in the pan. We'll start cooking the broccoli up. And you'll see that here in just a second. All right, I did end up just kind of slicing this a little bit thin, not a Goodfellas style if you've ever seen that. It's kind of a rough chop, and you can see I used like the worst knife possible for this. But these pieces of garlic were gigantic. So I did go ahead and just use like maybe 1.5 or maybe less. But I'm gonna take the olive oil now. We're at the pan, we're getting a good heat here. You don't wanna put too much. I'd say that's enough for now. We can always add a little bit later. I don't like it too oily because then it just feels like a messy or just a really gross kind of pasta. But like I said, you can always add, because what's going to happen is broccoli soaks up moisture. So it's going to really take this olive oil and run with it. Wash my hand real fast. It's going to absorb that olive oil. It's going to get that going. We're going to start to brown this up just a little bit. You don't want to overcook the garlic, obviously, because that's going to ruin it. It's going to make it really super bitter. I'm going to take the red pepper as well. I'm going to add that in here now. And this is to taste. So if you don't like this or you don't like spice, I'm not like a super spice person, but I do enjoy what this does add to the broccoli and to the oil. So we're gonna let this get going here. And I'll come back when this is a little bit more crispy. And then we'll add in, not crispy, but a little more brown. And then we'll add in the broccoli and get that. Okay, we're back. You can see this is starting to bubble a little bit. Our pasta water is almost ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and add in here, actually let me give it a couple of stirs here. You can hear it popping a little bit, but it's not browning or turning super dark, which is great because that'll make this super bitter and really lose the flavor of what we're looking for. But I do like to have the longer or the bigger pieces of garlic in there because it does, to me, it is a nice bite once you get there with the pasta. And then what I failed to mention too, with the pasta water itself, and I did end up putting it in here, and that's a little trick I saw online, is to kind of get that in while it's still cooking, or the water's heating up, and it should cook just a little bit flat, a little bit faster, slightly faster. I'm gonna go ahead and add in my broccoli, but what I was gonna say is with the pasta, a lot of people, with the pasta water, a lot of people will add olive oil or oil to their water. Don't do that. Even though we're using oil for this dish to cook the broccoli, and what we're doing here is we're just spreading this around. It's on a medium heat. I even dropped it down to like a level 4. The thing with electric stoves too is if you notice that your temperature is too hot, by the time you do drop that heat down and the time it does get cooler, it's probably already too late. So I'm not doing a drastic heat change, but if I was, I would probably move it over to another burner, because by the time, like I said, by the time you realize on an electric and it takes to cool down, you're gonna burn whatever it is that you were cooking. And I'm gonna even go ahead, this is starting to look good. The oil, the broccoli, it's all connected. But what I was saying about the pasta water is, and that's starting to bubble now too, which is good. Cover this. Don't add the oil, even if you're doing like a red sauce or something along those lines. Salt is good, obviously, because you want to flavor the water. But if you add in olive oil or any oil in there, it's just going to make the noodle slick, and it's not going to really let the sauce or whatever you're using really stick to that particular noodle. Unlike, a lot of restaurants or Italian restaurants, but the pasta is usually just like a garnish, or the sauce is usually, or the gravy is usually like a garnish for these types of things. It shouldn't be overpowering, so you still want to get that bite and that taste. So that's why you don't use oil in your water. We're gonna let these two go. We're gonna cook this pasta. I'm gonna cook down the broccoli. You can see it's starting to get nice and green, colorful, bright. That means we're heading in the right direction. I don't want this too soft. I do still like a little bit of a bite with the broccoli, and the same thing with the pasta. Go by the box instructions. I used about a half a pound of pasta, which should equal a few servings here, at least maybe 4 servings. But a good cooking time for this is between 10 to 12 minutes. I think that's if you're cooking the entire pound of pasta, but just stir it around every once in a while. I stirred it once I had it in there to incorporate it one time so it doesn't stick all together. And then we'll let that go until there's a little bit of a chew still left to it. And you can tell when you taste the pasta, you don't want it super, super soft, because even when you pull it from the water, it's going to continue to cook a little bit afterwards when you strain it, which we'll do. But what we're going to do is we're going to let this broccoli cook down, start to get nice and crispy a little bit, or at least cook through. We'll wait for our pasta. I may pull this because this is probably going to finish early, so I'll just move it over to this cool burner. And then what we'll do is we'll drain the pasta and just combine the two into this one pan. And we'll finish it off with a little bit of salt and then cheese to serve, and then we're pretty much good to go. Okay, we've got our cooked pasta and the broccoli. Let's see, my hand here. But what we're going to do now is we're just simply combining the two, mixing it around and heating it through. Everything is cooked, so I dropped it down to low. I'm about a 2. During that time when the pasta was cooking, I did move this off the burner because I kind of started things a little bit too quickly, I think, on the oil front. But gonna combine this. I'll plate it up and we'll top it with cheese and we'll call it good. You can also add a little bit more salt. I did taste the pasta, of course, when I was going through making sure that it was cooked. And it has a wonderful salt to it already. So I may not add a lot there, but this is a time too, you can add a little bit more pepper flake if you want to. Options as well, if you want to add some other vegetables into the mix here. I've had this with, I think the first time I had it when my uncle made it a long time ago was mushrooms. Just porcini mushrooms, just cut up, sliced, or white mushrooms sliced, cooked down with the broccoli, and it tastes great. But let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and plate this up, cheese it up, and we'll be good to go. Before I do, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention today's video sponsor, Ghost Energy. Ghost Energy, bringing you delightful energy with zero calories, zero sugar, tons of flavor, actually 10 calories. This is the Fazzy Pop flavor, but if you're interested in an energy drink with a ton of flavor, a lot of options, Ghost Energy. Thanks for sponsoring today's cooking video, Ghost. All right, and here we have it. It's topped with a little bit of Parmesan cheese. You can add as much or as little as you like. I love it a lot on this. Like I said, it really goes well with the oil and that pasta. But this is it. Super simple. Came together really fast. It's something you can cook in large batches too, save, and it's good even reheated. So hope you enjoyed. Thanks for tuning in, and enjoy the rest of the week. All right.